The Extraordinary Rendition of Janos Farkas. Chapter 53. He looked far off, from where the Mediterranean went from green to blue. It looked deep. People making the most of the ravaged Paris of the East dotted the beaches. In the distance, a rusted freighter stained the horizon. Further down the coast, yachts bobbed in the slight swells. Past them he could make out the shape of the Saudi royal yacht. It was too big to bob. He had not failed so far, and today would have been the day for failure. He had taken control, as he should, as would be expected of him, and they had listened and followed his commands. Turk to check on the explosive, Gisela to the stores. It was those two that he had feared the most. Those two who knew Janos the most. Those two who could expose him the easiest. And one a sister. How do you fool a sister? His first fear had been benign, but last night had proven that fear false. Perhaps the newness, the whirlwind of it all, had blurred her perception. And Howd was the only one who had shown any suspicion. And Spencer was not even sure it was suspicion. More of a strangeness. And Howd was the least connected to him of any of them, the least able to tell. His job was to expose Howd, expose him in front of his father, King Hakam, and the other Arab leaders, to expose him in a terrorist plot of his own making, a terrorist plot gone wrong, expose him and bring him down in such a way that there would be no hint of involvement by the Western world, and then kill him. Death by Janos Farkas. It had to be that obvious. The plot sours and the betrayer is betrayed. But how? There was no script to follow, no outline or plan. He was on his own now, and each step he took was his own, each move of his own making. Why had Howd cancelled the big show with the watches and explosives? It would have made the starting point easy, the path clear. The priest shed his Arab clothes and stood as naked as Christ in front of the hotel mirror. He saw no evil that was not justified, no crime that was not commanded. Taking his stiletto, he raised it to his body and drew blood. And again and again. The cuts were small and harmless, but deadly red. Clasping his hands behind his back, he twisted his body as if in pain. In his mind, the vision he created in the mirror was that of the martyr Saint Sebastian in Bellini's painting, with his body riddled with arrows and his face of wounded, questioning innocence. He smiled. If he was to be a martyr, he would be a martyr. But he would not be a sacrificial lamb. Not for Howd, not for God, not for Mohammed, not for anyone. The woman Gisela had made a fool of him, had usurped his power as a man, as the shepherd and leader of the flock. For that she would have to pay with more than her life. The man Farkas, he would take great pleasure in taking his stiletto, holding it up to his eye, and pushing it through. Leaving the mirror, he stepped into an icy shower. His body tingled and tensed, and the wounds of Saint Sebastian closed, and the blood washed away. There's a lightness that comes to the mind when the answer to a seemingly insurmountable problem bursts into it. Ayn felt almost giddy, wanting to sing out loud, but not daring because the song was one her father had taught her, a joyous song of her people, and the Syrian taxi driver, undoubtedly Muslim, would not understand. So she sang in silence only to herself. "You look happier now than when I took you there this morning," the driver said, looking at her face in the rearview mirror. "Something in Damascus made you very happy." "It is a beautiful city," Ayn replied. "Yes," the driver replied, "I was born there. It is my city. But you are American. What did you find there?" "Something I wasn't expecting, something that made me happy." "Can you drive me again tomorrow?" she asked him. "I may not be in Beirut tomorrow. What if I don't get a trip from Damascus?" "I'll make it worth your while." "If I am there, I am there. If I am not, I am not. he said to the mirror, but the look in his eyes told Ein he would be there. The answer had come to her like a flash of light. The Janos in Far Philistin was the real Janos. The other, the Beirut Janos, was a fake, a ruse. They had switched Janoses on her. What would you do if your husband were imprisoned? I would free him. Her heart did a little leap, a pirouette of joy and satisfaction. She had cracked it. I would free him. I would free my husband. They had done the switch because they knew she would undo it. She would switch the switch. She would bring the real Janos into play. Howd swirled the Hennessy in the glass, watching the lone ice cube disappear. Barely wetting his lips with cognac, he lowered it, looked at it, and held it over his shoulder. The glass was taken from his hand. He looked out over the horizon. There was a haze, not of heat, but of Beirut drifting out to sea. His father's yacht loomed on the coastline. He put his hand back to his shoulder, and a new glass appeared. Would the yacht be a good place for his father to die? He could certainly lure Janos there, and when the assassination took place, he himself would be nowhere near. The priest could then take care of Janos. There was a certain simplicity to the plan that Howd liked. But what if the Janos he was dealing with was not the real thing? What then? He seemed real. Gisela and Turk were real, he was sure of that, and they treated Janos as real. It was puzzling and somewhat disturbing. When he had heard that the Janos who was coming might be a fake, he was intrigued and amused and looked forward to the twist in the plot. But was the twist, or was the message itself a fake? And who sent it? What did they know? He looked again out to sea. The cruise ship Iliad was leaving the harbor to make room for his father's yacht to dock. The yacht was 5 stories high and as big as a cruise ship. It had a crew of 30 and could accommodate 120 guests. On the main deck there was a restaurant that rivaled anything Paris had to offer. There was a conference room that could seat 50 at its main table, with room for more around the sides. Beirut was hosting the Arab League, but the Saudi yacht was hosting the conference. That's the end of chapter 53.